Okay, this is still section R.5 factoring. This is our 5th video, and we're just going to pretty much sum everything up and combine all the techniques that we talked about in the other 4 videos. So first of all, you'll be asked to factor a polynomial completely. And when you're asked to do that, the first thing you want to do is look for a greatest common factor. If there's a common factor between all terms, then you're going to factor that out, and you're going to see what's left and see if what remains will factor any further. The next thing you're going to do is consider how many terms you have. And the number of terms that you have will let you know what technique you need to use. So, first thing we talked about was when you had 2 terms. When you have 2 terms, you want to check for a couple different things. The first thing was difference of squares. And that was something like a squared minus b squared. And remember that went to a minus b, a plus b. Oops, running out of room. Remember that the sum of perfect squares does not factor. And if something doesn't factor, just like when a number doesn't factor, when a number only has factors itself and 1, it is considered prime. So if a polynomial doesn't factor, it's considered prime. So be careful. If you see something like x squared plus 4 and you're asked to factor, it doesn't. It's prime. Difference of perfect squares, different story. A minus b, a plus b. Okay, other things we talked about when we see 2 terms. Difference or sum of cubes. Remember, there were 2 rules here. This is if I have a cubed plus b cubed or a cubed minus b cubed. And remember those rules. The first one, we would have a plus b. A squared minus ab plus b squared. And the rule when I'm subtracting, this was a minus b, and then a squared plus ab plus b squared. And I think we talked about those back in video 2. Okay, that takes care of 2 terms. If I have 3 terms, that would be a trinomial. We just talked about that in the last video. That's when we're going to use key number. And if we have 4 terms, that's when we factor by grouping. Okay, pretty much the important things here, aside from which technique to use, is always, always, always remember to take out the greatest common factor first, and to keep factoring until each individual factor will factor no further. So let's take a look at a couple examples. Let's start with 54 x to the 4th y minus 16 xy to the 4th. Okay, what do I do first? Do I have a common factor? And in fact I do. I can take a 2 out of both 54 and 16, and let's see, I can take an xy out. So when I do that, I'm left with, let's see, 27 x cubed minus 8 y cubed. Okay, so now what's remaining is a 2-term polynomial. And in fact, I have difference of perfect cubes. So I'm going to continue to factor this. Okay, the 2xy that I originally took out will remain, and it will get multiplied to however this will factor. So let's continue to bring that down. And now, let's see, remember, we're going to do a little parenthesis and a big parenthesis, and this will be minus, plus, plus. Okay, so let's think about that rule. Remember my rule. Oops, got a parenthesis, that's a squared plus AB plus B squared. Okay, so let's see, what is A in this case? A will be 3x, B will be 2y, A squared will be 9x squared, and B squared will be 4y squared, and then AB will be 3x times 2y, which is, let's see, 3 times 2 is 6, xy. Okay, so let's plug everything in. We'll come over here. So A we said was 3x, and B we said is 2y. A squared is 9x squared. B squared was, what, 4y squared. And in the middle, I'll have 6xy. So the whole thing, again, don't forget that greatest common factor that you took out in the very beginning. This is the whole thing factored. Okay, why don't you try, let's see, how about 32xy squared minus 50x minus 48y squared plus 75. And again, we'll call this the U-try, and we'll take a look at that one in class.